Hey everyone, just getting stationed here. Okay, we're live. Good morning, everyone. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. Yeah, it looks like everything's flowing through quickly, smoothly. So good morning. Good mornings all around. Paralysis by analysis. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Exact opposite. Can't bring myself some missed opportunities. Yeah. I got questions. Everybody, wish I got questions luck. Um, Hope the very best for it. I see that. Have a tech job you're hoping to get. Okay. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck. Absolutely. All right. So let's get started, everyone. I got questions. Did you? I think you said you wanted to get a question in. So if you're there, you know, uh, go right ahead. Hi, Amber. Okay, one of the first people I checked. Options. Hey, J. Paul. Not overtrading. Yeah. So that's probably a good place to start. Not overtrading. That's going to be expanded on quite a bit. I got questions, and I think that I look at trading frequency through the lens of patience, and trying to get to where you're going at a different rate, right? So, you take a trade that isn't really there, and it's not about the trade, it's because of where you're trying to get to, right? So this is the wrong way to look at it. It's kind of like saying you take a step forward without looking at the road or where you're stepping because your only concern is where you're trying to go. You can't trade that way, right? Like you can't, when you overtrade and you just start adding trades that you're not necessarily fully convicted in, you're just trying to get into play, you're trying to capture the momentum. I understand. Um, but you're fixated on the destination, right? Because the thinking is like, how do you make money if you don't take a trade? Like I get it. And so, guys, we'll preface this with a few things. Actually, no, I'll run through something else. I got questions. I'm going to expand on this as well. To those of you who don't know, I actually have. I don't. I'm sure you guys have realized I don't like not working. So I answer a ton of DMs. If you've ever DM'd me, I've probably written you back, and if I haven't yet, I will. I run the Insiders Group. I run the private equity. We're actually expanding internationally, and I actually do have a background formally in neuroscience, which isn't quite psychology. I have studied psychology at the university level, but I was more interested in a little bit more of a science person. If you have to divide it, so I do have a background in neuroscience. I'm not a neurologist. I cannot diagnose any conditions or prescribe medication. It's just something that I took on the side because I'm a very fun person and I enjoy just solving problems when I'm bored. When I go to bed, I to try and sleep. If I can't sleep, I if I have to look away from work, I actually just I do math puzzles. So if anybody is ever looking for a fun math puzzle game, there's a pretty good one on Android. It's just mathematical equations that you have to solve. Uh, Anthony Pooh just wrote that. Yeah, I like strategy games too, but I don't really get to play them too often. I'd say I do like I like exercising, but I'm pretty hardcore about my fitness routine. I'm pretty, I don't know, I'm pretty boring. I'd be the wrong person to tell someone how to live an enjoyable life, I guess. No, it's not Sudoku. It's actual math equations. Um, yeah, I'm diligent about my diet. I'm diligent about my exercise routines. My friends kind of tease me. They're like, go do some, have some fun. So that's actually why we had some, and see it coming in from Keegan, who had a great trade. Your best trade of the day. Yeah, math for fun. Yeah, I like the puzzles. So basically, what it comes down to is, don't want to make myself on a personal level come off as too horribly boring. I'm not that bad. I just like problem solving, and I struggle with obsession. So since we're doing psychology, I don't mind revealing that. Um, I used to struggle with a obsessive compulsive disorder. Like, you get obsessive about everything I do. But that lends to being successful if you can control it, right? Because it's a good thing, but it's not the fun, cool thing that it sounds like. Oh, that's cool OCD. It can be intrusive. So I have it under control, but I am obsessive, and I do like solving problems. So I mean, in my circle of friends or family, it's kind of like DMs. I get the phone calls when there's any kind of problem, and I do like problem solving. So that's why to sleep I'll look at math problems, and they're just random math problems. It's not like, looking at wave function and trying to bridge things in quantum physics. But I do read up on that as well, or I'll read up on different theories in physics, because it just makes me curious. So yeah, there's a background and an interest in psychology. This morning, the reason, guys, that I was able to do those calls, because I know everybody had a good time. It happened to be just fortuitous that today was my first morning off in years, where I really just didn't have anything scheduled or planned. And I think it's partly my partner's just concerned. I'll give you the quick backstory. I think I announced this, that we're looking a lot into international markets and looking to bring someone on to the private equity who can help us. That was my decision. I want to be more involved in international markets, emerging markets. And we've been looking and trying to evaluate different partners. And the idea is for me to receive recaps. But when I know these calls are going on in the middle of the night, I can't help myself, because I usually work really late anyways. So I just tell myself, like, hey, look, if it's starting at 4 a.m., I'll just keep working and jump in when it starts. So I've been hopping into these calls, and I'm supposed to just be getting summaries. So I think everybody kind of colluded, even on my private clients, and word got around, and they're worried I'm going to just drop dead. So they said, we got nothing for you, and we didn't really have a lot of trading to do, just because of the erratic nature of the market. So everything got canceled on me last night. And everybody said, take some time off, you weirdo. Yeah, they're not too happy that I end up jumping on these calls. So I think that's why we end up with this day off. But what did I do? I went to work on Twitter. So yeah, we had some good opportunities. I know the markets have been erratic. And I thought it was great. Like, if I had that time, I wanted to be able to help. And I knew that it could make a difference for some people. So I was tweeting and I was trying to help. So just want to get that out of the way. You guys saw we had a couple 100% return on PayPal this morning, on the QQQ. So it was a great opportunity, and I know that some people might have had a hard time trading this week, and I wanted to do that, really just to help. So that's what I like to do with my spare time, is come back and help everybody scalping, and I saw that it was going in our direction. And if you're part of the profitstaken.com insiders group, you know a lot about scalping. We're going to learn a lot more about taking momentum. Matt, I don't know. It really depends. I'll try to burn through these, and then we'll get started on the psychology portion. Anybody watching this in replay, we're just doing this quick QA, really, really quick, on some of these maybe mindset-driven items. So Anthony, I don't know if that was a good answer, but I also like walking my dog. So not to blow your mind with excitement. And I travel a lot for business reasons. So it's tricky, different time zones and working off a laptop and all that thing. But I do like to explore, go to restaurants when I have a chance. I need to eat. Itachi X, I studied, initially I studied economics with a minor in politics, and then I worked towards the MBA and ultimately did a undergrad program in neuroscience. So, and Marcus, beagles. I have a beagle. I love dogs in general, though. Like, if you have a dog of a different breed, I love your dog too. I love beagles. I'm also obsessive about loyalty and being good faith and honest. Honesty, I'm completely obsessed with. I think truth is the number one thing you should try to aspire to, and that's going to be a big part of the psychology and mindset undertaking, and that's a tough one for people, but yeah, that's big. And so loyalty, yeah, I love beagles. I'm a beagle person. I'll always be a beagle person, but I love all other dogs. Like, we've babysat for friends, and I'll just volunteer because I love dogs. We've watched labs, retrievers, golden doodles, you name it. I mean, I like, big fan of boxers too. I mean, you name it. I like almost all dogs. In general, I like animals, with a few exceptions. I don't like crocodiles or alligators. If they consistently kill humans, I'm usually not cool with those animals. Would you agree on having scalping day? Yeah, Caesar, I don't know. Today was just, like I said, it was fortuitous. So I will when I can, when time allows. Today was actually supposed to be me sitting back. I'm sure the people who tried to organize that won't really. It's not a good sign when everybody coordinates to try and get you to not do anything, and then they find out you're doing something. So I'll see how this turns out. Ashwagandha before the benefits. Ashwagandha can help with focus. Lion's mane is also really good. Fasting, intermittent fasting is good. You're most insulin sensitive in the morning, so I'm mindful of that. I find when I'm fasted, it actually it does help me. Economics and finance degree. Yeah, it's fine. Itachi, cool name, by the way. I know the series. I'm a fan. My beagle's name is Hinata, so that's for Itachi to the Naruto fans. Yeah, intermittent fasting, I do that. Lion's mane is good. I'm just careful about nootropics, right? Because it can increase anxiety. So if you're taking in a lot of caffeine, that can increase anxiety. That is an offshoot of that. Of course, I mean, you could balance that with something like tyrosine. Taurine can be helpful. Tyrosine's usually, to me, is the best for taking the edge off. But of course, this is not medical advice, not financial advice. And I'm not a neurologist speaking just ideas here. But how to deal with overconfidence, 30 to 70% over the last month, just took your biggest loss. Okay, so let's get into. That's a good question, James, and I'm going to touch on that here. The overconfidence and underconfidence. There's one that I wanted to discuss and, take it very seriously to everybody who wants to improve as a trader. It's pacing. Pacing is critical. I will have people write me in direct messages asking what they could do. This is how much money I have. I want to grow my account to X by this point in time. Is that reasonable? That sort of thing. But this applies to everybody, and it causes overtrading. It causes overconfidence. It results in underconfidence. You'll notice that the psychological journey and the mindset feels like a whiplash, right? Like you're either on top of the world or you're down in the dumps, right? And that's not healthy. You can't have that attitude and perspective on anything. That's very short term. That means you're overly sensitive and reacting to the moment. But one thing I want to touch on is achieving goals and getting to where you want to go. So what I've discussed with people who say, I want to get to this point, I want to get to that point. I focus on explaining that don't worry about the rate of progression, worry about the quality, right? And I used to see this in university. I always, or even in high school, I did really well. I was able to move quickly. Just academics, I did well there, right? So I would be able to go quickly. And when I'd speak to people, one thing I would observe is they'd read through really quickly, and I could tell that they weren't absorbing. And they became more focused about reading and getting to the end than they did about actually absorbing what they were doing. And you can see that pattern because they have this thought in their mind of like, I need to get through chapter 2 and I need to get this assignment done. And then their grades suffer and their comprehension level suffers, right? And I get it. There's that pressure of you need to get to the end goal. And I think that's horrible. I think there's a lot of things we could talk about when it comes to the education system. I think it's done poorly. I think people are so much smarter than we recognize, but they're just taught in a way that doesn't resonate with them. I think that's the same for stock trading, and a lot of it is because of personalities, but a lot of it is because these absurd furus out there, because they know that promoting ridiculous ideas is actually sensational, right? Like when you're selling a product, you promote something like, take this, feel great, sleep amazingly. It's really cheesy. So furus, people on Twitter who scam and are con artists, and they're just here to make a quick buck. One thing they are doing correctly is they're marketing correctly, right? Like if you blitz out all these trades and use all these methods to get it, like manipulate numbers and calls and puts, and you're all over the place, and I didn't take that one, I took this one. One thing that it does do well is it creates clips where 1 in 10,000 people do well, and you could retweet and go, bro, we went to 10 banger, right? And so that's actually fantastic for marketing and for selling people. And then you get in the Discord and you're like, oh, this is completely different than I expected. But when we talk about trading and getting to where you're going, I want you guys to think about this. And for everybody who feels antsy about taking another trade and okay, skimming through what I say, and then I want to make more money. I've noted multiple times now that I could see people don't read fully the notes that I add to my watch lists, which is wild to me. Like, there aren't too many professionals of near 2 decades with, the history that I have, the track record and public track record. I mean, you've seen the trades that I post and the reasons. It's not guesswork furu style, like, oh, I see a positive flow, right? I will break down in detail. And I have a history as a professional. I was licensed and I was an options specialist, and then I was a tech CEO. For all of that, people will skim through the notes and just be like, okay, well, what's the call out? I don't care. But I add notes in there that allow you to benefit. And what that tells me is that you're trying to rush to the end. You're trying to read the summary in the chapter of your science book. You don't want to read all the details. Like, I want to make some money. Well, what's the call out, right? Okay, you're not going to do well. Those are the people who always did really poorly. And they're always in a panic, and they're always in this state of like, I don't understand what's going on. No, you didn't stop and read, right? So I'm going to give you this example. When you're thinking about your end goal, and I completely understand, you get into trading and you want to be a professional, you want to hit the highs. There was someone silly in like a live call that I did a week or 2 ago with a different group who said there's no such thing as professionals in this space. It's all guesswork and you have to agree. And you can't be a professional, and you have to look at it through a lens of like, it's not gambling and guesswork. There are jaded people who break down when things don't go right, and they'll just look for the next holy grail. Like, maybe I'll follow this guy. He's in a hot run, or this is on a hot run. No, you have to stop and read the textbook. There's a reason the people who have been around for a couple decades have been, right? And there may be a handful on Twitter. And I know that people don't like Jim Cramer, but even Jim Cramer was a talented guy and did really well. He's very knowledgeable. I think he does some silly things right now. And maybe he's either lost his perspective, or I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's not what he was. But he was very talented, and he was an actual manager, and he understands the markets because people take their time to learn. And so it's really important to take your time. An example that I'm going to give you is right here. There's 2 of them, and this is critical to remember. So first, in chat right now, and I know there's a 15-second lag, I will wait. Can you guys just name what you do for a living? Like, just call it out. What do you do as a profession? I just want to see some answers. So just type it out. What do you do for a profession? What do you have a specialization in? What is your job? What do you do? I'll give it a few seconds. Awesome. I'm seeing it. Okay. So we've got a ton of answers. Category manager, fire captain, nurse, trading, healthcare recruiter, IT tech support for dictation software. That's very specific. Software engineer, civil engineering, trader, PMP, hazmat specialty. Oh, interesting. Pharmacist, cloud specialist, corporate strategy, software dev, construction, contractor, trading, dispatcher, tech guy, stadium design manager, UPS part-time, supervisor, recruitment business owner, Google IT director, English tech delivery driver, former IT. There's a lot here. Photographer, former biotech, DoorDash, accountant, art gallery at the moment, trained as a Windows admin tech. Okay, hospital food service, warehouse accountant, support for people with brain injuries. Oh, great. That's close to neuroscience. Musician. Okay. Take all of those, right? Now, this kind of goes back to the person who said, it's just luck. You know, some people could do well, some people can do poorly. No, that's a broken mind and jaded. I want to underscore something. Look at all these professions that you guys named. Could I start doing that tomorrow and do a good job in them? Like even if there's one where you think, hey, this is just my part-time gig, it's simple. Could I start tomorrow without knowing anything and just step in and do a great job? No. Could I do some things? Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm a capable person. I'm able-bodied, right? So if you told me, hey, write this email, admit this patient, ask them, check someone's pulse. You know, I understand on the health side, have a background in that. Let's say on IT, I was a tech CEO for a few years, so I understand basic concepts. These are little things, so I could dabble in some of them, right? Like I could walk in and dabble a little bit and maybe do a little bit of work where I don't look completely incompetent, right? Kind of like trading. You could step right into trading and get a big winning trade. That's okay. It can happen, right? Just like I could maybe do something properly for a lot of jobs. Like if I was a doctor and I don't have I'm just going to use that for a moment, and I'll even use IT tech. I could see certain patients, and obviously I understand certain conditions. You know, I can identify a bacterial infection, and I know the general sort of protocols. There are a few things I could do, and I could look competent for a minute. You can look competent for a minute in almost any job if you just take something that's intuitive, simple, or it's kind of lucky. So where do you break down? It's when you start to do it consistently. Give me a full day as a doctor, I'm going to run into problems. Give me a full day as a software engineer. I'm going to get lost really quickly because it's going to go over my head because I never specialized. I understand it at a cursory level, and I could apply to maybe fool someone for a minute. Like you could walk in and I could understand enough to convince you that I'm a physician. If you didn't know it otherwise and I was working there, you'd be like, well, it makes sense. Say, okay, well, where are you sore? And I'd ask you some basic questions. On the IT side of things, I understand scaling. I understand, cloud specialization a little bit. I understand different languages. Like we used to use like MongoDB and Node.js and some of the cutting edge software. And the idea is you can get away with it for a few minutes, right? So when you step into trading, it can go your way quickly. That doesn't mean that you're a professional, right? And you start thinking, oh man, why can't I get these amazing results? Well, first of all, the results that you see from the Furus are absolute nonsense, and I can prove what every single one of them are doing. I can show it to you. The calls and puts, I've already debunked that 1,000 times. I've paid my way into a bunch of groups just for research over the last few years, and I was like, it's part of what sort of encouraged me to really get serious with this Twitter account. Was I was like, this is crazy. These people are scamming people. I know what you're doing. They would when they do their live call outs, you'll never get the same entry as them. And it will be off by a 10 to 15%. And I used to record this because I don't look at things the way other people look at. I look at the specific details of the actual options contract. And in multiple cases, the options contract never touched it. But most people don't doubt it because it got sort of close. But what they'll do is they'll pad their entry by about 10 to 15%. Then magically, when they exit 10 to 15% better. That doesn't show that big for most people. And in the quick move, you could assume that, I guess somebody could get that. But it's every single time. Every single time. So when they lose, even on a losing trade where you're cutting at minus 10 or 15%, they're like, oh, I got out of -1, -2. It's like, that's strange. And when there's something that hits like 21%, they'll be like, oh, I got out of 27% in those 1.5 seconds. So I know they're scams. You have to understand whatever job you have, nobody could step into that and be a pro tomorrow. There's an education process. So what I do on Twitter as part of the Insider Access, we just take a deeper dive, right? And what I do on Twitter is I'm focusing on the education. I want you to understand why. And that's where I contrast and I criticize all the other fools that I see out there. It's never why because they guessed. No one could tell you why. Like if I flip a coin and I say heads or tails and it lands on tails and I called tails, we can all celebrate. But if the smart person in the room says, hey, how'd you know that? I'm not going to be able to answer and be like, oh, well, just the way that the humidity in the room was in the coin. So, like you'll be like, what? and people who are just zealots or infatuated will be like, yeah, he had the humidity read. And, anybody thinking will be like, what do you mean humidity? Doesn't have to do with a coin toss, right? You need to understand why. And that's why I'm really big on education. That's how I got into this. Of course I had to educate myself. I had to pass exams to get my license, which weren't that helpful for day-to-day trading. But it's critical to build your knowledge. So I'm going to give you one more thing here. So you know that you can't step into a regular profession and be a superstar overnight. This is one of the most lucrative professions that you are trying your hand at. And I guarantee for all of you, you've gone through more training and more school education for every job that got mentioned here than you put into trading, but you expect bigger results from your trading, right? Like, I'm just looking back, right? I can go through these. Fire captain. No way, Marcus, that you became a fire captain without a tremendous amount of experience in training. These people's lives are on the line. Calming videos. Nurse. You need to go nursing school. You have to get your education for years. People's lives are on the line. Healthcare recruiter. You're not getting into recruiting just day one. IT support. You have to actually understand it. Software engineer. You have to learn the languages. Civil engineering, I know that in Canada, you actually have a ring to remind you of an accident there was where a poor job in civil engineering resulted in a bridge collapsing. And so it takes years. Engineering is typically a 4-year program, right? Hamzat's specialty, again. Yeah, Marcus, that's serious stuff. Pharmacist. You didn't just walk in on day one and be like, okay, just take pills and give them to people. That's not how that works, right? Construction. People will get killed if you're not doing the right job on construction. As a contractors, same idea. Like all of these that I'm seeing, stadium design manager, accountant. You didn't just say, yeah, everything's a write-off and this is the percentage you pay. Accounting is so nuanced. Trust, accounting is not my specialty. All of these professions, you guys get it. You spent years focusing on, and I'm sure you're happy with whatever the salary is, and everybody wants to be paid more, but you chose it and you're like, I generally know what I'll make in terms of my return. Yet you switch to trading, not all of you, some of you, and you want to make 5 times as much from trading as you do from your work, but you want to have 0.01% of the experience in education. Good Lord. Can you just put that in perspective for a second? All of you with your degrees and your different training, your specialization. Look how much work that went into that so that you could have your annual salary of X. But you want 10 times more than that, or you want to be able to take like winning trade 90% of the time. You have to think about the quality of your education. That's why I'm so hyper-focused. That's actually why I started the Profits Taken Insiders, because I was like, I don't have enough space in a tweet, right? I can't do videos every day. I need to write this down and break it down for everybody so that I can give you full breakdowns. That's why I see people posting about the insiders. And on Twitter, that's why you'll just see me go on post after post, video after video. We start at the basics. I want you to understand delta. I don't want you to understand theta. Think of it this way when you're taking trades. So we were asked about overtrading. Overtrading is because you want to take that next step. Maybe you're in a good place, maybe you're in a bad place. Either way, you use trading as a catalyst to move towards a goal. If you've taken losses, you need to take more trades because I got to get back on track. I can't sit with this horrible feeling of a loss. If you're on a roll, it's, oh yeah, I made $3,600 this week. I gotta start doing like 5 a week. If I do 5 a week and you start buying things in your head, then I'll pay this off and I'm probably going to buy this house and I want to take this vacation. You can't focus on the goal. This is how dangerous it is. I'm going to make this very clear. Let me ask everybody a question. Imagine I gave you a cup and let's say it's 85% full of water, not a 99 because those are really easy to spill. But I give you a cup and it's 85% full of water and I tell you, if you walk 500 feet that way, just in a straight line without spilling a single drop, I'm going to give you $10 million. If you spill a single drop, you're bankrupt or you drop dead. Would you run with it? Would you run with that cup? And there's no timelines. There's no time frame. Like you could take as much time as you want. You just need to go 500 feet. The cup is 85% full of water. Would you sprint with it because you'd be thinking, oh my God, I want to get to that $10 million. I want to get to it. No, you wouldn't do that because that would be crazy. That would be nonsense because the consequences are you go bankrupt or drop dead. Now we flip a coin. We don't know which one it is. But basically you're either dealing with your financial life or just your life, right? You would not sprint. But then people get into trading and it's a sprint and your finances are on the line. Like you can lose a lot of money in trading. So why are you sprinting? And that's what overtrading is. That's what oversizing is. That's what jumping into a trade that you don't have properly counted out. That's what that is. When you jump into those trades and you're taking trades without a good reason, it's because you're trying to run. It's you're making a sprint, right? And you're not recognizing it because it's not a physical thing. There's no knife hanging over your head, but that's what you're doing with your finances. You're just going crazy with your finances saying, I set a goal in my head that I was going to make $10,000 a month. And if I make $10,000 a month, I can quit my job. And if I make $10,000 a month, that'll be this much a year. And then I could do A, B, C, D. Okay, good, great. You could do that. And if you don't, you can lose more than you're making at your job. I know that because I used to take losses. I posted it yesterday and it was honest to God. I remember saying to myself, I'm taking this trade. I'm walking away. I don't care what happens. You know, if it goes up, great. That's awesome. I hope it does. And if it doesn't, I can't even think about this anymore. It was just almost like a relief. That is such a defeated mindset because I was just in such a rush that I ended up imploding on myself. Like one or two bad trades and I was melting down because it felt like, oh, now I'm delayed in getting to my goal. This is such a stupid way of approaching trading. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anthony is a great example. It's like watching a few YouTube videos on how to fly a plane, reading a book and thinking, okay, let's go. No, there's a progression, right? You have to move in progression. It doesn't mean that you can't start making money. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful. In fact, moving at a measured pace will help you succeed. That's actually what helped me. Like I've told everybody that. There's several things, but a big thing was just not trying to hit a home run every time it came across the plate. Like I didn't need to hit a 500% trade so I could feel pumped up and, oh, I need this. I used to think of the most insane, horrible, illogical things. Like I would get aggressive on a Friday. I swear. And this is shameful for someone at my experience level, but truth is important. And the reason that I shame myself, let me just say this first. Guys, I have a lot of pride. Right? Like being obsessive doesn't come without a lot of pride. I don't like being wrong, but I love to know if I'm wrong. I don't know if that makes sense. I need to know. I need to get better. It doesn't matter what I do. When I'm working out, I'll record myself sometimes. And it's not so it can go on YouTube and I could be a cool guy. It's so I could look at it when I get an opportunity and see if my form was off, because then I am really upset with myself and I need to correct that. And I'll go to the mirror right away and I'll fix it. I don't like doing things wrong. But but being honest with yourself, you know, and accepting that hurt of what you're doing wrong is the only way to get better, right? So it hurts when I'm wrong. It hurts when I'm off. It hurts when I'm embarrassed. You know, like I said, I have a lot of pride. But I'll share with you, I used to trade on Fridays and trade more aggressively and overtrade. And you want to know my reason? It's because I wanted to have a good feeling going into the weekend. I swear. Like, not because I had opportunities, not because it was the right time to take a trade, not because I had the right setup, not because of anything from a fundamental or technical standpoint. I knew that I did this. I didn't say it out loud, but I was trading more because if I took a loss or I didn't get a big enough gain, I wanted to go into the weekend and, you know, like, I want to party this weekend. I want this to be a great weekend. I'm doing so well. I want to feel pumped, right? It wasn't really not even at the parties. It was just, I want to feel like a champ. I want to feel like a stud. I want to see some of my colleagues who are doing really well and making a lot of money and succeeding. And I want to feel like I'm part of those circles. Like I'm here, right? I don't care if I'm only, 25 years old. I want to be more than just a rising star. I want to be the number one guy. And it's not going to work on this 13% return followed by a 10% stop out. No, we're smashing it so I can feel pumped going into the weekend. This is so horribly stupid. It's like a child. Like basically I was managing my emotions instead of my trades. And I know that for a lot of people, your emotions are prioritized over your trades, right? It's why you don't stop out, because you go into panic. It's why you don't take profits, because you start seeing green. You start having dollar bill signs in your eyes. So again, think of it. If you're walking with a cup and I tell you 500 feet, don't spill any water, $10 million. Spill a drop, you either drop dead or you go bankrupt. Nobody in their right mind would ever run, right? But we're running here. We're trying to fly that plane. So, that's just sort of a glimpse in my mind in terms of taking trades and pacing. Like, what are you rushing towards? Get it out of your mind. You don't get to have a hard set amount that you're accountable for every single day. What you're accountable for is getting better. That's why ignore the furus and the nonsense of 9,000%, bro. You'll notice I post immediately after, or sometimes in the same post. Like, you'll see we had a 500% return on Facebook or 200% today. Right away I say no FOMO, right? I won't say, oh, you guys missed out. You didn't run with us. We're printing, bro. I say the opposite. I say, no, don't do that, because I'm not trying to sell you a Discord class or whatever the hell they do, right? I want you to stop and not feel like, oh, I missed it. I got to rush. And then I'll even follow up and say, hey, guys, even if you did take this, you're not expected to hit the peak. That's not realistic. We happen to, like, this is just today. How many times have we called things out? On the scalp, we happen to exit here. So if you guys are looking at it, we got out here. That's almost near the bottom. And it still wasn't the bottom exactly. Like, we got out around here. It was down in the 305s. I said, hey, I'm fully exited. Let's get out. It still wasn't 305.11 because it's not realistic. You don't have to worry about the furu nonsense of like, oh, God, I'd have printed it. I could teach you every single scam on how they do it and what they're doing and why it doesn't make sense. I know some of them even play a game where they say, we don't do stops. It's like, okay, if you don't take stops and you just call out random plays, of course you're going to get a ton that run for quite a bit. Because that means, like, if I took calls on the QQQ, I would do this, be down 70%, then end up on the day. Nobody could ever manage a fund like that. That's only conducive to selling, is to having something you can put at the end of the day. Because all you have to do is either put like, oh, I always stopped there. Yeah, it didn't go our way. Didn't go our way. Speak the truth. It's a 90% loss for people. They'll just say, yeah, that one didn't go our way, but oh, we made 900%. So be careful. That kind of thing gets you rushing. And you know me, I don't name accounts, but I know a lot of them play that game, and then there's a calls and puts one. No stops, we just call something out. Yeah, Caesar, I wanted the opportunity. It's not conducive to my schedule, but hey, I had the chance today, and I made sure to do it. Yeah, no FOMO. There's no reason to feel like you missed out. Feeling like you missed out is only going to cause problems. It's going to cause you to chase. You're going to see something late and be like, I need to get in on that. Or, you know, you're going to try to rush your progression. I'm looking in the questions here. All in favor of PT Gym Clips feed? Yeah. I don't know. I'm bashful. Maybe if you see me in the gym, then you'll catch me there. Actually, I have a home gym, but I do go to a public gym just as my vacation, because otherwise I don't leave office or office environments. So as crazy as that sounds, my wife pokes fun at me. It's like, that's literally your like social life. So no FOMO reminder. Yeah, absolutely not on point with this. I'm gonna read and take some questions. Let me know what you're thinking in terms of mindset. I really want to explore that, particularly not stopping out and not holding in to take additional profits. As I said, I think it's people trying to rush, not having the full education and trusting in the progression and trying to do better. But again, I look at all, if you're watching the replay of this, look at all the professions we have in there. Show me one where you're just walking in and being able to be a pro. Even the one you find the most basic. Like, I worked at a grocery store. I still had to learn things. It's not the most complex job to work as a cashier when I was like 16, right? But I couldn't walk in there right now. I'd be like, what are the codes again? What is my login? What do I enter when this happens? How do I put in a manual coupon? You get the idea. There's a progression to everything. even a cashier job, even like newspaper delivery. I had to like memorize which houses, look at my route, right? But then we walk into trading. There's multi-billion-dollar hedge funds with trillions of dollars traded in short spans of time. And we walk in thinking, I got this. You can get good at it, but to get overconfident and rush and not take progression and build is crazy. And it comes from two things. Like Furus just add fuel to the fire and they burn a lot of people. And like I'm telling you, I haven't found one that isn't a con artist. The only person's, I mean, there's some fund managers on here. Mark Minervini is really smart too. I always give him credit because I think he's one of the real ones, but he doesn't do options trading. And like I said, Jim Cramer is smart, but I don't like what he tweets. I don't know what he's playing at, but I don't even know if he's being honest. But again, I think they cause that, but it's also human nature of wanting to rush and thinking that you can get to the top right away. You can make money. You can make a lot of money. You can make good money. Start at a level and build. So let's get some questions coming in. Chad Tranmeyers. Oh, of course, Chad. Yeah. If you write me, I will write you back. And I say to everybody, I apologize. I am above nobody. I don't look at it that way. I always try to think of where I'm deficient, what I could be better at. And you guys just listed a million things that you do a million times better than me. So there's no anybody's above anybody else. I'll write everybody back when I get the opportunity. This just happens to be my area of specialization and my expertise. I'm sure if I was trying to do something you guys specialize in, you would be the guru teacher and I would just be a student. It's just sharing of knowledge. I will always try to write all of you back. Yeah, Caesar, one thing you could do, my heart feels like selling when I'm plus 20 and I end up selling early. Everything psychologically, if you look at clinical data, when you have a patient, and I mentioned this in the last psychology video, who has any kind of fear or any kind of issue, fear, any kind of problem that they're experiencing, one of the most proven, tried and true, and efficient ways to overcome that is through exposure, right? And so the example I give is if you're afraid of dogs, let's say, right? Dogs are amazing. Well, the idea isn't to turn around and run away every time you see a dog across the street. Maybe what you do is you start slow. So it doesn't mean that you run right up to a dog and start play fighting with it, right? If you're terrified of dogs, what do? Well, maybe instead of running away, you walk on your side of the street calmly. You see a dog that's on a leash, it's across the street. Okay. Next time, if you see that same dog and you trust it and you see that you're safe, you get a little bit closer. You walk on the same side of the street, you keep your distance, and you move by. And then the time after, maybe you get a little bit closer, then you're just brushing right by. Then eventually, you ask the owner and you say, hey, do you mind, would I be able to pet your dog? Is he friendly or she friendly? If they say yes, you can get close, touch it once, move away. Notice the progression. This is how you ease a fear. And it's the same thing with children in a playground. If the kid freaks out, what you do is you're not supposed to leave them and abandon them and tell them to figure it out. I know some parents do. Is you say, okay, they run and hide between their parents' legs and they hold on. You say, well, what if you just took a couple steps and I'm right here? Okay, and then the kid takes a couple steps. Take a few more steps. It's okay, I'm right here. And then just start playing and I'm going to watch. And then they play and then you watch. And then you back away a little bit further. And eventually they can play on their own, oftentimes, right? But it's the same thing for exposure. So Caesar, and this isn't a roundabout way. This is a clinically proven, it's a psychological concept. Exposure to anything is what makes us more comfortable. Think of anything, guys, anything that you've been uncomfortable with. As you expose yourself more, you get better. That's why, one of the unfortunate things in this world right now is like whatever you don't like, delete it, block it, get it out, silence it, shut it down. No, the way to get better with things is through exposure. It doesn't mean that you have to like them, doesn't mean you have to incorporate them into your life, but you create a weakness when you run from things and you just try to say, okay, create a world where you don't have to see or hear or interact with anything that you don't like. It's very dangerous because there's going to come a time when you don't have that choice and it's going to be meltdown. You don't want to set yourself up to meltdown as a trader or as a human being. So what I would say is that if you're feeling antsy when you're up, and you're thinking, I got to sell, just hit 20%, I got to get out, and you sell your entire position. Okay, what if you have 5 contracts, just for a while, sell 4. Hold on to 1. Just hold on to 1. It's okay. If you take a loss, that's okay. If it comes back, you have your protection plan in place. If it comes down to 10%, that's okay. Sell 10%. You still took a gain. Do it again. Don't stop just because of that one time when it hit minus 10, went from plus 20 to plus 10. Do it again. And do it again. And do it again. And keep doing it. And then you'll have that plus 47, plus 61. And then maybe next time you up it to 2. And maybe you up to 3. And then you start devising a strategy. It doesn't mean that you always hold on when you get above, when you hit plus 20. But you go through a progression of exposure. You expose yourself to something, and then you become resilient to it. I mean, this is just a human, not only psychological, not only neurological, but physiologically exposure. You know, like if you go to the gym and lift heavy weights, you will get stronger because your muscles adapt through exposure, right? The way to get stronger, if that was your goal, like physically, is not to not lift weights and run away when you see them, right? It's the same thing with having your gains. It's just take size off, let 1 run. Just get that exposure to the idea of running. Exactly. Resistance builds muscle, right? And it's the same thing here, is that exposure builds comfort. You know, if you're afraid of public speaking, well, speak to someone one-on-one in a room. Try talking to 2 people, maybe just friends. Maybe a group of 3, 4 friends. What if you have a really small group of 10 people that are strangers? How about 20? You'll move up, but if you just are terrified of the idea of public speaking, you never do it, you'll never succeed at. So hopefully that idea of exposure, and this is clinically backed, and it's why I say these videos are a little bit different. It's not bro science. I will touch on my personal experience because it's relevant since we're discussing trading, but it's through exposure. So hopefully that's helpful. And Chad, you're very welcome. And held on to my golden dip, lost out on profits. It's okay. And let's say use trade template, went back into it. I'm just reading through this. He will live trade with you on Insider Access. Esta vez opinion, it has nothing to do with precluding or doing it specifically for one group. There's more callouts for Insider Access. Absolutely. We definitely have more calls, but it's just a function of time. Like I said, it was something I had the opportunity to do today. And so I did it for everybody on my day off. But honestly, I wouldn't have my day off any other way. When I saw that opportunity, I thought like, hey, this will make me happy on my day off. I can help people. Word documents filled mostly with PT quotes. I review it each morning before I trade. Oh, thanks, Marcus. Itachi, yes, new insiders will get access to old emails. Absolutely. Particularly ones that are critical. Send out the scalping lessons and how to trade on IV, a bunch of them. TK Crow, how do I cancel my job so I can trade options and watch your content all day? I don't know how you cancel your job. That's a good question. Appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. You get Ed L. Are trigger points for watch lists valid different days under revisits? Not necessarily, Zarek. That's a good question. No, I try to review and reanalyze things all the time. To everybody on the Lucid trade, you know, that's going to be one where I will reevaluate and look at additional opportunity. Struggling with paralysis, recently built a 5 monitor setup and just have info overload, set up screen tips. Yeah, let's go, Brandon. Geez, you caught me. Let's see, I understand the reference. So yeah, 5 screens is a lot if you're kind of getting into it. You know, I have multiple screens, but I'm not darting around looking at them. Like most of them are just there. Really, my attention is on 2, maybe 3. But it's percentage wise, right? Like 65% of my attention is on my main screen, single screen, and then less on the second and less on the third and fourth and so on. I do think that is an overwhelming amount of information for a trader who isn't really further advanced. I mean, some of my screens just have news and international markets and some of the underlying that we're holding. So I don't really have to look at it too often. And then I also just have like key messages from private clients or notes. I like to see my email and access coming in from private clients and on a private equity side for communication. So it's not just like 5 screens of tickers flooding down on me. That would just that it's mind melting. You need to be focused. So, Brandon, yeah, what I would say is, this, like what I have on this setup, if you have one more monitor, I think that's more than helpful. I think I've shown you guys, I've shared my Thinkorswim setup. I think that, it's less is more. I don't think you need to have that much data coming in as the average trader. And in fact, I think what happens when you have too much data coming in, and this is good from a psychology standpoint, is you're more likely to overtrade because there's so many opportunities that you don't get a fully baked idea. You're just seeing, okay, I see unusual whales. There's a flow coming in here, and I can see the markets are going up there, and I can see this is pulling back here. You're making decisions too quickly. Quality over quantity. Ignore the furus, right? So, paralysis by analysis because there's too much data coming in, or you end up on that side of things where there's just so much you don't know what to take. Narrow it down, Brandon. This actually ties into what we were saying. Slow down. You're carrying a cup, right? And that cup, you spill, it's bankruptcy or drop dead. If you get to the other side, it's very rewarding. Slow it down. 5 monitor setup is like saying, you're jogging. Why are you jogging? Slow it down. You don't need to take a vehicle. Do you options trade based on chart point, or do you base entry and exits on option screens? It's a combination, think and learn. And I've touched on that a lot in the feed. I got laid off last week. Sorry to hear that, Splatula. So this is my job for now. Well, don't rush it. Make sure you don't lose, but there's a progression. If you take that progression, you're able to do some good things for yourself. Coming off of strictly phone trading. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, maybe calm down the 5 screens. Turn one of them or 2 of them off, or I don't know, use one to show a peaceful beach. Trigger point Hitachi, yeah, we'll talk about it in a different video. I've talked about it in a few of them. It's a lot of data that goes into it. So let's see here. Jason Cardinal, I usually have SPY and QQQ up on the chart. So that's a good thing as well. With the SPY and QQQ, don't let that pull your mindset, right? Like, don't get overly fixated on it. You have your plan, take a look at it, but have those in your side view. That's something that's important. I like to watch the general markets, and I like to know what's going on. So, yeah. So another one is get asked about not stopping out because something will come back. And I know I touched on this in the last conversation, but I want to be clear and say that one of the things that's really, really critical in any kind of trading, right? Whether you are in profit or loss, you have to have a plan moving into the trade, and you have to stick to your plan, right? Now, there are wrinkles you can add of position building, where you add to something, but what happens is people have a plan or not. And typically with the people who don't stop out, they violate their plan and start building a new plan on the spot, right? They start thinking, okay, well, this isn't going my way, so I'm going to average down, and I've talked about averaging down, and I'm going to find my way out of this, right? You're not sticking to your plan. And I think if I explained it this way, you built a plan last evening when you were calm, or maybe in the morning. You performed your analysis, you performed your due diligence, you thought about everything, you had this fully mapped out plan, maybe you spent an hour or 2 reviewing things, you looked at news, you looked at everything. Now, if something isn't going your way, or maybe when it is, you change your plan in seconds because of what you see on the screen. It's very dangerous if you don't know otherwise. So it's something to be careful with. Now let's see here. Starting the options journey. Okay. I always take a profit, keep my account small, so kept me from overtrading. Yeah, that's Han 423. That's another good one. Look, guys, if you can't control an account with $1,000 and you keep taking losses, and you just can't control yourself, exposure. What does that mean? You're overexposed. You have to bring it down. Empty the money out of your account if you don't trust yourself. It's funny enough. I used the specific words, you have no business. And there was somebody, a furu, I won't say who, but it was a girl. I'll narrow it down. Stole my tweet exactly and said, if you can't manage an account with $1,000, or $100, you have no business trading on 1,000. But I blocked this furu because I was like, that literally, a bunch of people caught it. stole word for word. But it stands, and for some people, it's not even about managing at that trade side. If they have it in their account, they'll take that position. So take it out of your account, transfer it out of your account, and do not put another cent in. Manage the $100. I know you can't get in on all the trades. Well, guess what? There's a reason you've decreased the amount of money in your account. It's because when you do get in on the trades, you do things that are irresponsible and you're not able to stick to your plan and your rules, right? You don't like it, but you can't give yourself a promotion here, right? If this was a job, would you fire yourself otherwise for making mistakes? Yes. So you get a demotion at the very least. The amount in your account has to decrease if you cannot control yourself around it. There's no other way to explain it, right? Like if you can't control yourself, if you have a fast car, you have to get a slow car, right? Because you're going to crash and it's going to kill you. It's the same thing here. You're going to kill your finances. If you just jump in and you're like, I don't know, and you put $10,000 into an account and you start trading like $7,000, $8,000 and you're new and you're taking wild swings up and down and you lose a bunch of money, you shouldn't have had that money in there in the first place, right? Like you could deposit it in there if it's used strategically, but you start seeing that you can't control that much money, that much capital, you have to back off. You can't be trusted around that. You can't trust yourself. You have to build trust with yourself. It's not about me or anybody else. Like you could lie to people and go, oh, my trading's, I'm doing awesome. I'm doing amazing. And in the back of your head, be like, oh my God, I can't believe how much money I lost. Who cares about what I think or anybody else thinks? Like that's furu life where you worry about someone applauding you for your watch. No, worry about what's happening to you and your finances. Like be protected. Put everything else aside, the Discord groups, inside access, the money you could spend, the 5 monitors, a car, whatever it is. Take care of yourself and your family and your finances, right? And if it's not going the right way and you can't trust yourself, pull back. Focus on education, right? When I write out emails to insiders, it's just, they're long emails because I don't like to skimp on anything when it comes to education. So focus on progression and education. If you can't have that much money in your account, just get it away from yourself. Han 423 said it perfectly. He takes profit out of his account, or she. I apologize, Han 423. I don't know. Takes profit out of their account because they know that if it stays in, it could lead to overtrading, which is something negative. So let's look at the next piece. Price action, unusual whales. Yeah, unusual whales is great. It's a great service. What your workflow for execution on? Do you use hotkeys? Sometimes. Future for adding trailing stops runners. Diego, yeah, I owe everybody an update. We have a thread, so I thought this was useful, and I should make a thread for every broker. Now we have a thread on the feed that's specifically on IBKR, and Darren, a few other people had some really great tips on there. TK Crow, any thoughts on the Dunning-Kruger effect and how long it takes to get good at trading options? The Dunning-Kruger effect, so the false sense of confidence. I think it was Mark Twain. It's who said it's not what you know, it's what you know that just ain't so, or what you think you know that just ain't so. Yeah, that sort of ties in Dunning-Kruger effect. It's getting a little bit of knowledge and assuming that you know a lot more. Well, you just described all the furus out there. They read the basic headline enough but they just read enough to fool someone. Like if you memorize a few lines out of a medical book, you can impress someone who doesn't really know anything about medicine. They'll be like, oh, this guy must be a doctor. It's like, yeah, it's called a con artist. That's what con artists do. They memorize things. But there is that effect of, overextending once you know a little bit. How long it takes to get good at trading options is a combination of things. So, and that's a great question, TK. That's a really great question. So I've known people who were fantastic at analyzing and had a lot of great trade ideas and were absolutely horrible at executing. Is my hand on the mouse? Were absolutely horrible at executing, right? So in one way, you could say they're good at options. It's just they would go nuts. They wouldn't exit at 170%, and then it would hit their stop loss, and they wouldn't exit there either. And you'd look and say, oh my God, if you actually just executed what you say and think, you'd actually do really well. I was that person for a while. I had some really good ideas, and I didn't adhere to them. So there's two sides of that. The analysis it's nuanced, right? Like as you get better and better, a lot of these layers, which you're seeing through my feed, seeing through profits taken, and the insiders, I'm adding a lot of little details that make a big difference. Like, for example, and it's, you guys are inspiring me to do that, because I try to challenge myself. I said I like puzzles earlier. I try to challenge myself to the puzzle of, how do I explain this? How do I take a very complex concept and explain it in a way that people can fully embrace? And just for everybody's information, that is one of the biggest things to me in the world. If you want to prove to me that you're intelligent, don't try to be overly verbose and impress me with your language. Don't try to impress me with your money. I think one of the most intelligent, beautiful things people can do is take a complex topic and explain it in very simple, plain English. Like, you're not trying to impress people, you're actually trying to help them. So I'm trying to impress everybody. I'll speak about the theta and the gamma and multiple calculations and the variable formulas that I put in place. That doesn't help anybody. That's, you're just trying to sit here and show off. But if you're trying to help people, you start to think of, what is the analogy? So TK, to give you an idea, like, it takes time. Yesterday, the analogy was, I felt this was perfect, or the day before, I said, you have to regard these FOMCs, in this particular one, as earnings. It's not so much about the rate hike. Everybody knew there was a 50-point rate hike coming. Like, you could have bet on that. If we were just trading on that, whether that would happen or not, everybody would have made a lot of money. Right? There was a very small outside chance of 75, and Powell immediately stepped out and said, that's off the table. We're not even considering that. Right? So everybody knew that. But how did you read which way the market was going to go? Right? Like, how did I know in advance? There's no crystal ball. What I said is, regard this as earnings. If he comes out and he underscores positive elements, the market's going to rally. And if he doesn't, even if we're neutral, the market's going to tank, or it's going to drop significantly. And if he's hawkish, it's really going to tank. So neutral or negative, we're going down. But if he's positive, we're going to see a run. And what did he do? He came out and said a lot of positive things. And I've already given my take. I was frustrated and I disagreed with that approach. But the point was, it's explaining it and helping layer in those nuances. So it does take time to get really good. And it depends on what your definition is of good. And sorry, TK, I know that I explain everything as a nuance. I wish I had more of a binary answer. I do like binary answers. It's a 1 or a 0. A 1 or a 0 would make me much more comfortable. But that's sort of it. I think that if you're dedicated, in a couple of months, you can get to a good place, assuming that you execute with discipline. And then over years, you become better and better and better. You know, that sort of perspective that I had. And to say it's this specific FOMC where I'm telling everyone that's taken years of experience and also following and understanding the market. But you can become proficient within a few months if you're diligent, and particularly if you execute well. But I find it takes people some time to execute. So that's why I try to introduce tools and perspective for improving execution. Let me know if that answers your question. Yes, Biro Sky. Yeah, I talk about that pretty frequently. My stop loss, usually between 10 and 15%, usually closer to 10, but it varies on the trade, right? So different trades, I'll expand that out. And I start looking for profits above 20, but it doesn't mean that I cut it all in one shot. So me too, think and learn and come from those Discord guys. Yeah. Explanation why this is a better place for me. Yeah. Why? I mean, Nunya business, you have to understand why, right? And the reason they can't explain why is because most of them didn't actually get the results that they claim. I've tracked it in real time. And a lot of them have actually been busted. There's a few Twitter profiles that focus on busting the liars. So they'll post like fake screenshots. They've been busted. One of them said they made up an algorithm and then they had to backtrack and they deleted things. Like, it's just a marketing game, If you lie, they spend their whole days worrying about that. Like, I don't sleep as it is. I don't need to tell a lie, because lie it's a proverb, but it's like the lie has short legs. Doesn't really make sense in English, but there's a proverb. It runs out of legs pretty quickly. Take your hand off the mouse. Anthony, am I moving the mouse a lot? Let me move the mouse to the other screen. Let's see here. I've been trading with $1,000 anytime a profit transfer back. Great, Jason. Jason's in an example here. He posted how in order to control his trading, he transfers in and out of his account to have an amount that he's most comfortable with. He's comfortable with $1,000, and when there's profits, he'll remove that and he adjusts accordingly. Yeah, that's smart. It's a good idea moving money every time you win. As you develop and you progress, like I said, maybe you go from 1,000 to 1,100, and then to 1,200, and 13. Go through progression, right? Because there's a psychological impact of more money. That's why I tell people, like, when you're trying to perfect the system, whether it's exiting or obeying a stop loss, if you're not able to do it, just do it with a smaller size, right? And they're like, psychologically, this is the reality of pressure. We talk about exposure. If you're afraid of public speaking, well, there's a difference between speaking in front of 3 people and 300 people, right? If you're afraid of dogs, there's a difference between, a happy little beagle or like a corgi and a mastiff or a big pit bull. There are differences. You have to expose yourself gradually, and keep increasing as you go. So if you're not stopping out with your position size, take one contract, take one $50 contract and see if you can do it. And don't think of it, and here's the danger, don't think, it's only $50. So if I lose 20%, it's only $10. I don't care. No, don't lose the point. The point is an exercise in getting better. Don't give yourself a reason to fail something that you've just made easier for yourself because the consequences are less. You're missing the point entirely, right? The point is to get better at what you're doing, not to be able to give yourself excuses about the raw dollar amount. So keep that in mind if you're scaling down. But that is the way to help yourself improve and become more disciplined. Just do it with smaller amounts, right? And make a promise to yourself that you're going to do something. Hold yourself accountable. It's a good policy for life. Be accountable. And don't worry about, I know a lot of people grew up and their parents are too strict or their teachers or whatever it was. So we hear accountable and it freaks us out. It's like, I don't want to be controlled. No, don't worry about anybody else. Who cares? Worry about you. Tell yourself something. Tell yourself something and stick to it. If you have a hard time sticking to your stop losses, make a deal with yourself. That's where I explain all the time. I'm hardest on myself. Nobody told me to be here this morning on my day off. I told myself I'm here to help people. This isn't my job. I come because I'm accountable to myself. Like when I exercise, I don't get paid to go work out. I'm accountable to myself. And the thing about being accountable to yourself is making a deal with yourself to be more disciplined. You could lie to anybody you want, and you guys all know this. You could put up pretenses and pretend. You can say whatever you want to anyone. There's only one person you'll never be able to lie to. It's yourself. And the rest can be bravado. I'm the best, bro. We're printing. I'm cool. I'm great. You know if you're a scam. You know if you're legit. And maybe no one else will ever know, right? So you know if you stuck to your plan. You know if you were disciplined. Make a deal with yourself. Don't let yourself down. I can tell you in my life, the most painful times in my life have been when I let myself down. Like it's other people, sure. Other people are important. Some people are more important. You have family or people close to you. If I let myself down, that's when I feel like trash. I feel like an absolute failure. And if I don't let myself down, that's where I actually feel, you feel good and you feel your sense of self-worth because you know who you are. But if you lie to yourself, then what life are you living in? Like if you're not even honest with yourself, where do you stand? There is no truth in your life if you're not honest with yourself. But we always know the truth. So make a deal with yourself and don't let yourself down. Don't sell yourself out. You say you're going to do something, do it. Make a contract with yourself. Let me see here. Let's see. Matt Dittman, there will be a big email on that, but you can see high volume and lower price action in terms of volatility. That's because there's action on both sides, right? If you look at Apple on most days it's not a hyper volatile security, but it tracks the most traded stock out there, right? The most traded option. So the two aren't mutually exclusive, although there is of course a relationship. When you see big moves, you often see them accompanied by heavy volume. But there is no mutual exclusivity. What type of research should a trader do before market? It's there's a lot there, Itachi. Monitoring the general markets, news, commodities, futures, seeing what's going on, looking at macroeconomics. Just a few of the things that you want to keep an eye on in the morning. Those are the things that can really shift the market before it opens. So let's see here. Yeah, I just love the calls and puts they put out every day. When you call it both ways, you win every time. Yeah, precisely. Like that is the Furu scam, as we all know. If this is open and I just put calls up here and I put puts down here, and I know some people are like, no, this guy's legit. Why? Prove it. What's your history? What's your background? I can dissect their page They just market it in a way that makes it look try to make it look legit, because they omit the things that are inconvenient and they hyper focus on the things that are convenient. Yeah. So just think of today, right? What if I said puts down here and calls up here? Well, yeah, if you took puts down here and calls up here, you could say that's a win. But it's like you can't just go up and down when you open, because what if calls are just above here? Yeah. Well, here's what's going to happen. They're going to say calls here, right? And, puts here on a tight range. Okay, well, you know what? It broke that and then it tanked. And it actually broke this and then it rose up. So when do you stop out? When do you manage your capital? The only way that the calls and puts scam works in hindsight is when you cherry pick the data, you only show the people who do well, or you ignore losing money, right? Like if I say calls, if it breaks here, yeah, I could end up saying, well, yeah, we're going to tank down all the way down here. I could end up saying when we're here, be like, oh, look, we made money. I was like, well, we lost here, right? And then we came up and lost here. So it's only where you're choosing, right? You guys get it. But anybody could do it. I mean, definitely don't follow some furu. Just take calls when it slightly goes up, take puts when it goes down slightly. Let's see here. What are a few of your favorite setups for beginners or intermediate option traders to focus on and master? Jeff Lohman, I'm not really clear on the question. Do you mean as in like patterns? I don't trade off of patterns. Like this, you could see anything anywhere you want, like bull flags and bear flags and all that sort of thing. I don't look at that, because you could find whatever you want and it always works in hindsight. And when it doesn't work, it's like, it just didn't work that time. And when it does, it's like, see the bear flag or the bull flag, right? And what you see here will change based on timeline. Like, okay, so here's a potential bear flag, I guess, but not quite. But depending on your perspective, you could say this was a bear flag, or, this was a bear flag, bull flag. And then you're like, oh my God, it ran up. Well, all right. Don't see it, right? Still don't see it. It's even more chaotic here. So which one are we doing? And then, of course, the person trying to sell you on that concept, because it's the easiest concept to scam, because you can find them everywhere, will choose whatever timeline is convenient to them, right? So let me take here. Scalping. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to skim through the questions, guys. Look at percent for total amount. Keeps the FOMO. Very great. Yeah, percentages always, Matt. Absolutely. Always work with percentages, not raw dollar amounts. And that'll keep you from saying something like, I only put in $100 and I'm down $10. I can afford to lose more. No, you're at 10%. If that was your plan, out so you could build a habit. It's not about the $10. I know you have it. Everybody's a baller. Everybody has $10 to lose. I got it. All right. I don't care about that. I realize that you're not concerned or stressed about $10. Totally not the point. The point is exiting and doing something that you can scale. Because if you don't do it with $10, you won't do it with 1,000. You'll say, oh, no, if this was with 1,000, I'd definitely do it. But then it'll go from I have $10 to lose to I don't have $100 to lose. I can't lose this much. I have to hang on. The story changes. The story will always change, because the scenario is always going to be a little bit different. But if you're disciplined and you apply the same way to everything regardless, you don't have to worry. But if you go with a story like, I could lose $10, so I'm down 10% on 100, that's okay. It's only at 20. I could lose 20. Okay, I'll lose 30 here. Sure, you only lost 30. You let it go to 30%, you didn't obey your stop. When it's at 1,000, you're just going to change your story, because that's what story makers do, right? Liars, you're lying to yourself. Liars have a new story no matter what the situation is. No, bro, we didn't take that. We're printing now. Furu talk, right? There's always a story. Don't be a story maker. Be consistent. You're down 10%, just say, hey, look, I'm out. It's not about the $10. It's about I have a system that I stick to because I want to be a professional. You would never do this at any of your jobs. You would never mess around and play fast and loose with protocols. You would never, in an engineering position or a nursing position, be like, I filled up the syringe with 30 cc by accident. I'm not going to put any back. I'm just going to inject 30 cc. It's only about 10, 15%. No, you can make an adjustment because discipline is critical, and protocol and being precise is critical, right? You have to do that in trading as well. You have to adjust that mindset to being focused to where it is a habit. You don't even think otherwise, period. So let's see here. So on 423, I like the 1 minute charts just because a chart is just a visual, like a candle is just a visual representation of price action. That's all it is. It's nothing more. People talk too much of candles like, oh, you never take a trade without a candle closing. It's confirmation. Yeah, Wall Street's confirming to you that a trade is valid or not. That's not the way it works. It's a visual representation. This is something you hear from people who know nothing, because a rumor was put around by someone who's good at marketing that says, you wait for the candle to close. Really? No, you don't, right? Like if you were taking a scalp here and you ran all the way up to here, if you entered at the candle close, you get this and then you get trashed. You might make a buck if you just took it here. If you're on a tight scalp, you might make a buck. And this happens all the time. There's no such thing. And then if we're going on like 5 or 10 minute candles, it's just nonsense. It's absolutely random. And I made that point of, we see a bull flag here, but if I change to a different time frame, it's just erratic price action. We don't see any kind of flag. And if I change over here, what do we see? We still don't quite see the bull flag. So it's just visual perspective. Keep that in mind. And Han 423, yeah, for some people, the perspective of the 1 minute candle, there's things moving too quickly. As long as your focus is on price action, use whatever visual representation you like. For some people, it's just the movement creates nerves, right? Just like having time and sales on, that can create nerves, particularly if it's not something you find useful. Raj, yeah, that's going to be in a deeper email, relative volume standard deviation, but RVol I do touch on quite a bit. So let's see, to stop loss, close on the trigger. Does your stop trigger on a close of a bar, or as soon as the price reaches stop? Lost ones, yeah, never on a bar. That's kind of what I just went over. Never, I don't care about a bar. Again, a bar is it's a drawing. It's someone, just think of it this way. It's someone drawing, hearing what's happening with the price, and they create a drawing. What do you care about someone's drawing? You care about the price, right? And the drawings change based on your time perspective. So anybody who talks to like candle, confirmation, man, these people would be selling you plastic bracelets to cure your arthritis if they're in the medical space or scamming the medical space. Like, knock it off. It's such nonsense. No, that's all this is. Like, TD has it, Thinkorswim has it programmed such that, the movement will create a shape. And the shape fills in as red because it's what I have in my settings, right? I could change the color here. I could change whatever I want. And I can show wicks or not, right? This is all up to me. It's almost like you're telling yourself whatever you want to tell yourself and just making it up. But what's happening with a company and buyers and sellers has nothing to do, unless you believe it and then you trade on it, then you've kind of created a self-fulfilling prophecy. It has nothing to do with this little shape on your screen. It's just absolute chaos. And the reason people get aggressive and they get really upset when I say that is because I'm going after the mob's money, right? Like the moment I lift the veil on that and help everyone understand this clearly, and I would happily engage anyone in a good faith conversation. I can prove it. It doesn't even need to be engaged in a debate. No one wants to discuss that. And the Furus hate that. And I've actually had DMs asking that I not go hard on Furus. I won't say who, but even a large group asked that I not go after Furus because it's not good for business. Furus themselves have written me, and through proxy, and asked me not to go after certain things. Never have I had anybody actually defend the data. It's more just, hey, this is bad for business. Hey, come on. Why are you spreading this negativity? Can't we all just have our own methods? My take is, well, can you qualify your method? Can you explain how it's valid? Because otherwise, no. And I don't call people out by name, and everybody knows that. But the more people that are sort of following me and just listening, it's not about me. I don't do this whole, are you with me, bro? Are you on my team? No, here's my idea. I'll qualify it. I record my thoughts just like I record my live spaces. Defend it. Let's just get the best ideas that will help everybody. Has nothing to do with dogma. Has nothing to do with trying to be the cool guy. Has nothing to do with being on anybody's team. You're on your team. You're on team. Make money and do well for yourself and be successful and figure out how to trade better. That's the only one. So yeah, the candle thing, they love that because it's a marketing item. You know, they could take pictures and go, oh, see when the candle confirmed and closed, but I could show you 100 times when it didn't. And you can manipulate it based on perspective. Like if I wanted to show you it was a good idea to get in on the confirmation of a candle, I can move between a 1 and a 5 and go, yeah, not on the 1, but did you guys see the 5? Took it. Boom. Clean. Clean, guys. It's clean. So, yeah. You know, it's important to know. And for a lot of people who wonder, I don't make it a point to go after furus. The reason that this is important is because these are bad concepts, which are dangerous. You know, I'm never focused on furus themselves. That's just the word I use to describe bad concepts. I'm focused on the actual data. That's all that matters, is the trading concepts and the data. That's critical. And I know some people don't know, because if you're new, how else do you know? You see there's someone with 20,000 followers and a bunch of people saying things like, oh my God, we banking today. Well, you got 20,000 people or 50,000 followers. Yeah, you're going to get a handful who get lucky. And I know a lot of them have friends who come and post, and they get fake accounts to post for them. And they create fake accounts that they post from, right? And one furu supports the other because they share. I can break into this whole thing, but there's actually a profit sharing thing amongst a bunch of Discord channels where I will give you a percentage of mine and you'll retweet me and get people sign up to yours, A, B, C, D, E. It's amazing that I describe it as like a mob, but they're not even, yeah, I wouldn't give them credit. Mob's more organized than that. They're more complex, but hey, it's what it is. So let's see. From bad experiences, I don't usually trust most indicators. And yeah, Javier, right. You know, if there was a simple automatic system, everybody would be using it, right? So that idea is tough. I know there's a lot of auto trading out there. Ed, no problem. Itachi, yeah, I detail a lot of that in other videos. It's very nuanced to go over. Jordy, you're very welcome. Lost Ones, you're also very welcome. And let me just see here. Guys, if I miss any questions, please repeat them. And if I don't answer your question thoroughly or appropriately enough and you want to know more, just let me know if I didn't do a good job or if you want me to expand. I want to make sure that I'm 100% transparent. I don't dodge questions. And I want to make sure that I answer them in full. You know, take these opportunities. It's like what I do. It's what I like doing. I just spoke backwards English there. And let's see, Ziggy. Oh yeah, I knew I was missing one. No, I don't use the Black-Scholes formula. You know, it's great. Credit to the person who created it. And looking at, when you're looking at probability distribution and trying to calculate project forward, but I based off of my own sort of mechanisms and the things that I've detailed. I look at a variety of different factors for where we might go, and depends on the importance of the catalyst. So everything is kind of weighted. That's how I explain it all the time, as I say, it's weighted. It could be that I analyze the news, options flow, macroeconomics, and our fundamental analysis, and the only thing that matters to me is the news. Well, that gets 100% weighting, but it's a distribution system. Right? So you have to look at what's most impactful and most important and give more weight to it, right? So for example, if all else is equal and I hear really bad news, well, that is 100% of my catalyst. That's why I'm trading. Now, if I have bad news, but I think something's oversold based on fundamentals, I also see positives on a macroeconomic side and a extremely bullish flow. Now I have one negative and I weight that against the positives. So if that makes sense. And let's see here. Lots of things. What's German direction? How do I determine entry price? So unwind, yeah. I've talked a lot about triggers. I'll do more videos on triggers and entry prices. It's nuanced, so I don't want to. And there's a few videos out, so I don't. It'll be a lot to get into right now. But suffice to say, I do have a few videos on that, so make sure that I cover, and I've gone on about it. Jason Cardinal, yeah, straddles. Yeah, you could take straddles, and they work in specific market conditions. I think Kevin had that question, Kevin from Nashville, my lobster taco friend. He asked about taking spreads. So we're going to have like a deep dive on spreads that will include straddles and a few others. And I think I mentioned it. It's been a few months now, but several months ago, I sat in on a call on the latest option strategy, and it's mind blowing how many different approaches people have come up with. Where it's like there was like an earnings play one where I was listening to, and it involved taking like 7 options, 7 contracts, where it was, and you scale based on that principle of like 3 above, 2 near the money, 1 under the money, and then there's like this strategy for when you sell and don't. It gets pretty bound up. That's all another reason I don't get too deep into option spreads and strategies. But I can go over straddles and some of the more basic ones like credit spreads and bullish spreads and bearish, all that sort of thing. We'll make that a specific deep dive on the Insider's Access because it is nuanced, and I'll want to show some examples. I follow the accounts on Twitter that appear to nail a lot of. Yeah, Kyle, I've broken it down. I don't like to name specifics, but I could tell you exactly what others are doing. It's they're either late to the party call outs, or they disregard the cherry pick data, calls and puts. They completely disregard stops. So it's like, hey, QQQ calls today. Right, and then they take the best possible opportunities entries, and they're non-specific. It gives you so much room to fudge around with, right, where you can blur the numbers. Like if I were to just say calls on QQQ today, right, when? What entry point? Because if I took calls here, I can get destroyed, right? I will either have to suffer this, and the IV might be such that I still don't really make a lot of money, particularly here, because we're almost back to where it opened. So then what do we do? Well, then you're going to say like, hey, had you taken calls right here and sold here? It's like in the entire day? Yeah, you're nailing it. And maybe someone took it at the bottom and sold it at the top. That is a crazy thing to call out, because then I could say call puts on it today too and say, here's where we go. Or I could just say it's based on where we end up. It's so non-specific. And I know a couple of accounts to do that and actually joke. They're like, the guy's proud of it. It's like, yeah, I don't mess with stop losses. Stop losses suck. Your stop loss is whatever your position size is. Okay, that's called a casino. That means you bet $50, you don't get to take anything out. It's all or nothing every single time. That's crazy, right? And you just ignore the people and how much people get destroyed because you just go, oh, it didn't work out. No, detail it. What is didn't work out? When I say didn't work out, it means stop loss at 10%. I've already detailed what the stop is, so I'm owning it. They just say, it didn't work out. Oh, but look at this 900% run. It's like, yeah, what about the 100% loss? Did you talk about that? How someone lost their entire position? No. Marketing. Miss grabbing lunch out of the fridge. Thanks, BT. Your like a voice reason that. Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that. Yeah, Michael Chambers. Yeah, not a fan of it. It's cross strategy or the death crosses. I talked about those. Trailing indicators, like some of them have like some validity in the sense that they're trailing indicators are telling you what you already know, but I'd rather know months in advance and wait for it. Like kind of like the death cross, right? Where I was writing, hey, I called in January. That was the time to scale out and make money, right? Like that was the time to take profit. So let's take a look at it, guys. Like if you looked at, I'm going to pull this up. So let's take a look at we're going to do 3-month chart. We should do like a 6-month chart. Day. We'll go to day. So where is it? January, around here, which wasn't perfect at the top, but this was me managing for my private equity. And there's a reason I'm respected in that regard. There's a reason I'm consistent and I do well. I continuously, not once, buried in Twitter so I can retweet it if I ever need to, but then I can hide and pretend like Furu style. I said what I had to say about the market and I kept saying it. And this is where I got out, right? Now, the death cross would have started telling you that it might be a good idea to get out around here. And then the market actually rallied, right? It was somewhere in March. That's useless because it's a lagging indicator. Or if you're following and you're getting good at what you're doing, you start calling out. And you guys could look at it, and I've retweeted it. January 12th, I'm scaling out of my growth positions, doing the same for my clients, advising, doing the same in my private equity, and advising the same to my private clients here. I know that was the peak. I get it. And I could have got out anywhere here and we could have done better on our positions. I understand. We got out of our positions here and we took some short positions. And here's where we are right now. So no, it's not the perfect peak, but this was sufficient for me to recognize, hey, there's a shift in the market here. It was actually a little bit earlier, but I saw some positive momentum and said, hey, let's hold, let's get out. With lagging indicators, they'll tell you what happened, what you should have known here, or what you would have liked to known here. They'll tell you here. Well, you already knew. So yeah, not a fan of them. Good ideas, bad execution. Hold yourself accountable, Chad. Right? Don't worry about anything else. You make that deal with yourself. And exposure. Remember, from the psychology standpoint, I know the last psychology video was a little bit more intensive on the mindset and psychology. This is a little bit more on strategies, and I'm taking a few more questions, but it's because I want to drive value and kind of blend the ideas as well. Exposure, right? Drive it small, scale up, focus on the education. I spent money on my education before I was ever really active as trading, right? I kind of had spent money on my education to get my license, but you get the idea. I would always do that. I will pay for an education. Look at what you do in your normal jobs. Like, we have engineers in here. Did you make money before you paid for your education? So invest in your education. And there's a million ways to get your education, but invest in that first and foremost. Soak up information, hold yourself accountable, and move with exposure. First day on the job, even when you have your degree, doesn't mean they put you in charge of everything. You get specific tasks, you do orientation training, and you move up. Lost ones, technical indicators, not really. I will, like what you see on my screen, which is what you get. I like to see volume. Volume's critical to me, and I will use RVol. So it's relative volume standard deviation. For lost ones was asking what indicators I use. That's what I like to use. When I am scalping, I put this out to the insiders. We do use a few other indicators, but it's more because I recognize that they're self-fulfilling prophecies, where you could take advantage of people who are zealots of technical analysis and sort of trade with the daily momentum. Yeah. Zarek Heights, absolutely. Can one become successful only trading first hour and last hour of the day? Currently living in New Zealand, and market opens 1:30 a.m. here. I get my whey protein from New Zealand and lamb. I know that's not a very useful thing to say. New Zealand offers a lot more, but I don't really have much of a personality, and I'm trying to relate. This is how a robot thinks. But I do get my whey protein. Oh, and my butter. I get New Zealand, the grass-fed butter. I'm diligent about my diet as well. Absolutely. The first and last hour of the day, that's when the highest periods of volatility are. If you nail those, you could be the most successful trader in the world. But the short note is, and that doesn't say that you will, but the short note is you have more than enough opportunity in the first hour of the day and last hour. If your trades are on, you can make money in the first 5 minutes of the day, but you have more than ample opportunity in the first and last hour. 100%. Yes, correct. Itachi 520, Itachi X 520, turn them all off. How do you remove your dependency on indicators? Turn them all off. Get them off your screen. If you can't understand, because what's going to happen is you're always going to look back to them as though they're trying to tell you something. It's almost like a mystic. You got to look back at that crystal ball. Is it maybe saying something? Oh, there was a guy who told me that when it broke the 9, it went up. And the 9, they're trailing indicators. So if I turn on the 9 EMA right now, it's going to follow this. Not because it was predictive. We're traders. We want to look forward. You project going forward. When I'm doing fundamental analysis in my private equity, I'm not looking backwards. I'm trying to figure out where a company is going to be in 6 months or 12 months or 3 years or 5 years, right? But just for kicks here, where's it? Edit studies, what is the exponential? Oh God. Moving average exponential. Yep, there's the 9. Oh my God, how did the 9 EMA know this? Look, it can see the future because it's a trailing indicator, right? Here's where price is, here's where it is. It follows the price. That doesn't tell me anything. And people will say when it breaks the 9, I'm in. When it breaks below the 9, I'm out. Really? It's all over the place. That is chaos and it's nonsense. But it's very marketable. You know why? Because if someone's new and doesn't know any better and has a few $100s or $1,000 or two, you could probably dope them into buying your Discord class or whatever it is that you're selling and say, look at the 9 EMA. I just bought when it goes above. Look at all this profit and loss. And the reason why they want to jump in is because everyone's in a rush to make money, right? So like, this is the secret. This is the shortcut. Oh my God, I didn't know about this. This guy's going to teach me how to use the 90 MA. I turned it on and he's 100% right. Now, I don't know how to use it, but if I could just learn from him, because he said he bought it when it went above here, and look at all that money, and boom, second it went out. It's like it knew it was going down. This guy must be great. I'm going to give him $1,500 to get into his super class, whatever league, and he can help me out. No, you got scammed because it's visual. People can sell things that are visual. Like in our insiders group, it's boring from a sensational standpoint. Like, I don't do anything sensational. There's no watch photos or like, look at this line, it will take you. It's a breakdown, an explanation from a technical standpoint. Images are used when there's relevance and utility. If there's no utility, they're not used. It's about learning and understanding. When I went through textbooks, all of my learning, it's not about sensational stuff. So Itachi, yeah, just turn them off. 100% lost ones. Yeah. 100%. Like I just described, yeah. Furu's taking advantage. What's a flyer? Flyer is a high-risk trade. So when you're just taking a shot and you know it's a high-risk trade, you've expanded your stop losses, but you also expect a much bigger ROI. Like for me, a flyer, I'm expecting 300, 400, 500%, but I'm willing to lose a much bigger element. I take a flyer. What's your general market sentiment for the rest of the year? Was a couple of after hours, and people believe we aren't reaching new highs for the rest of the year. Curious point of view. I remain bearish. I've reiterated this, and I'm suspicious of the people who are jumping on the bandwagon now. I think those are people who are just trying to adapt to the times and make sure that they get on record. Oh, I got on record. I said it in May. We're headed down. Yeah. Well, after we went down, here's where we were. Right? Here's where we are. You're going to tell me that we're going down? That's like jumping out of a window and saying, I'm calling it right now. I'm going to hit the ground soon. You just jumped out of a window. You're 40 stories up. Yes, you're going to hit the ground soon. That's how I take it. But yeah, my sentiments remain until the feds can do their job and prove that their strategy is effective. I am not entering or opening any major positions with my private equity group. Not advising any of my clients to do so. The only thing we are focusing on is small cap and some select opportunities. But I don't feel as though that we have a clear indication that the market has fallen as far as it should. I don't feel as though there's strength in the economy. I don't really care what the talking heads say. And I for legal reasons, and I know my lawyer peeks in and out of these chats, so I don't want to give him a heart attack. He's already sent me a text and said, here's how my lawyer speaks. Dude, profanity. This is your day off? ? What's wrong with you? I didn't see that part. What's wrong with me? That's not nice. I won't allege bad faith, but when I hear these talking heads come out and say the economy is resilient, the economy is strong, the economy is we're fine, or Powell saying there's no chance of a downturn, I think that's reckless. That's my opinion. I'm not alleging bad faith or corruption or anything like that. So maybe my lawyer can at least cut me a break there. I'm not saying anything liable here. But Diego, where's the economic data suggesting as much? We haven't seen inflation arrest. And I'll touch on this for those of you who are interested, a little bit about what Powell said yesterday. I was very frustrated that his choice of wording, it's misleading to me. And it's not really his fault because people will key in on things, but he knows that they'll key in on things. To come out and say, we're not concerned about a downturn, that's reckless and irresponsible. To come out and say, to underscore that inflation may be peaking. Well, first of all, has it peaked? No, we don't have data to confirm that yet. That's where you need confirmation. You need your confirmation candles on that. Has it peaked? And that's not the point, right? The point isn't to say we've peaked. Because if it sustains at the peak, let's say that the peak is 10%. If we hit 10%, we sustain there, we're still in a horrible place. We haven't arrested inflation, right? If the Fed's job is to get us back down to 2% and we're at 10%, why are you underscoring the fact that we may have peaked because we might be sustaining. We need to see inflation come down. We need to reduce inflationary pressures. That's a message delivered to the market. And this is what we got. We got these chaos days, right? So I don't see it. I don't see it in the economic data. I don't see it in the jobs. I don't see it in the production numbers. I don't see it in inflation. I don't see it anywhere that we're taking a turn. So if someone's going to time the bottom and quote unquote buy the dip, be my guest, please. To all of you, perform your due diligence. But in general, for other people, go ahead. You want to be the hero? Go for it. I don't see anything in the economic data, and I've been through this, since before 2005. 2005 is what I reference because that's when I got my license as a professional. Started trading in 1999. Although I was so bad then and it was so expensive, my commissions were worth more than my trade purchase, which eventually went to like zero. I'm not sure if you shared your thoughts, volume profile, market profile, efficiency. Not yet. I chart for fun, but that will be out in a technical item. Best bang for books. Paul Rainey, there's no specific book, not these days, not with the abundance of information that's available out there. If you're reading books, it's more like technical books might be more for fun. Yeah, I know. I sound like a good time, right? I know of books that I enjoyed reading, but I didn't take anything technical from it. Just more drew inspiration for someone's discipline. The last one I could think of that I actually enjoyed in that regard might have been something called How to Beat the Street by Peter Lynch. And he was a fund manager, Fidelity, Magellan. I just enjoyed, hearing his perspective and sort of how he worked. And maybe just as a fund manager is just kind of cool to hear what he went through and how inconvenient things were. He has a portion in that book where he talks about standing at a payphone and just going through a list of securities and writing down quotes on a paper and a pad. And I was like, wow. So for those mornings when I'm really tired or, when my workload is high, I just remind myself and say, hey, at least I got a computer today, and, I try to find ways to make my life easier. Like when I'm traveling, I'll get a hotel room with a nicer view. So at least while I'm working, I can look out the window. People make fun of me over that. They're like, that's your idea of a vacation. You just get a better view in the hotel you're working from. That sounds like a lot of fun, but I could not get a good view, right? Like I set up an ocean view last week. I thought that was amazing. And I opened the door. It's not the same as running around on the beach, but it is what it is. So yeah, there's not one. Definitely not boring. I get so excited when there's an email from Insider Access. Thank you. Not just the trades, but all the education experience shared. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks, TC. I appreciate that. Just want to say thanks for helping retail and education. Thanks, Hitachi. Ninja Business, Google, lawyers actually looking up for you. That's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. Yeah. Not really. I think maybe I have lost ones. Maybe I've heard Traderline. So we'll get wrapping up here, guys. I'll give 3 minutes. I got to go in a few, but we'll just shift, and maybe because I'm such a boring robot all the time, that I'll make it something kind of fun just for the last 5. And that's a good part of psychology too, is just changing perspective for a minute and looking at something different. That's why I like to study different stuff. I know that's not really relaxing, but it takes my mind off this. So I'll open this up to and ask me anything for the last 5. Thanks, Jason. C. Coley, could you give us guidance on difference between real and fake opportunities? You'd have to expand on that. C. Coley, what do you mean by real and fake opportunity? I mean, like Furus, 99% of them fake. Anthony Poo. Favorite food. Good. Jeez. It was my mom's lasagna. It was a really crazy story on how she got the recipe. Really, really crazy. I'll because it's an Ask Me Anything, I'll indulge in it. And actually, we lost my mom in 2010. So, she was like my best friend. But one of the things that drive me. So while we're on the favorite food thing, that drives me to be better, because I wish I could have been, better and had that success for her to see too. But so she worked in retail and fashion. So my parents are both immigrants. And she was a fashion manager, but she also did alterations herself, like as a seamstress. And there was an Italian lady, we lived in like an Italian community, who brought her a recipe. Who brought her some clothes to do alterations, and my mom told her the quote, and she said, and the Italian lady took it back, and she said, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't afford it." And it was like for her grandkids' first communion, I think. And my mom just felt for her, I learned a lot of generosity from my family. And my mom said, no, leave it with me. And the lady was saying, no, it's okay. I'll take it. I can't afford it. And, my mom said her English was broken. So my mom took it and did it for free. And she said, no, leave it, please. And she's like, it's for her grandkids' communion. She doesn't have money. I'm an immigrant too. And she's like, my heart broke for her. The poor lady, she wanted to pay for it and she just took it away. So my mom did it for free. And the lady couldn't believe it. She goes, come back in a couple hours. I will get this done. She did all the work and just gave it to her. Said, don't say anything. Just take it. Just go. Right? Like, we're not going to ring it up. I did it on my break. This is from me. There's no payment for it. And this is to answer Anthony's question about favorite food. The lady wrote down a recipe and she said, this is the best recipe ever. This is a lasagna recipe. It's passed along only in my family and how we do it. You have to take this. Like, she insisted my mom take it because, she has her pride too. Like, she got it free, but it's just because she didn't have money. It's not because she's like a dishonest person trying to take advantage. She wanted to give something back. You guys understand? So she gave my mom this amazing lasagna recipe. And we lived in an Italian community, and all my Italian friends were like tripping over themselves to just get some of my mom's lasagna. But unfortunately, no one ever learned it. Like, my mom just memorized. She's like, I eventually lost it, but I had it memorized. So it's been a long time since I've had that. In absence of that amazing lasagna, probably sushi when I like to indulge. But if I had to live on an island with one food, it'd be eggs, because I eat a lot of eggs, which is as boring as it gets. Any nice plans with family for the rest of the day? No. Walk the dog. Probably going to do some work and prepare. No, I'm not supposed to. Thanks, Lost Ones. You're not boring. I appreciate that. If it's not clearly a trade or too emotional, thank you. Appreciate that. Manage attitude and trades. If I held, like, how you move on. Yeah. Diego Fuentes, how I move on in trades. One thing that I learned about everything, you can't carry things with you, because then you're not doing your best. Whatever you're doing, there's a focus that you have. In sports, your focus is, I want to play, this way. If you think of what happened last game, it's going to mess you up. When I used to play sports, if I had a bad game and I tried too hard the next game, I end up playing worse. If I had a good game and I got overconfident, I end up playing worse. So it's the same thing with trading. Like, I learned that in sports. Like, you have to have a short memory, right? You can't be rattled by what just happened. You can't. You have to trust in every single scenario that you're following the protocol, and it's the averages that will boost you. The best players in sports are just consistent, right? Like, you get some players who have amazing games in whatever sport you follow, right? They just have an amazing game or an amazing performance, but not all the time, right? But the great ones, it's like, no, they're always good. They're always near the top leaderboard. They put in entire seasons. Same thing. You just want to have good seasons of trading. Ed L, thank you. Yeah, tons of great memories. Yeah, that's one of the things that drives me. I feel like I should have been more of a success sooner, right? Because my parents struggled. So that's one of the chips on my shoulders for everybody. You guys get a deeper look behind the curtains. That's leaves a serious chip on my shoulder. I had a lot of success very early. I was a CEO by 29, but not in time. Favorite band, Zarek Heights. Favorite musician, John Mayer, by a long shot. Not for the poppy radio stuff. He was just a phenomenal guitarist, best of his generation. He was just in Houston, and I didn't go because I was working. I was actually I just was leaving for a business trip the next day, and I was working that evening. But yeah, probably John Mayer. And I like a lot of blues. I listen to everything though: country, death metal, blues, jazz, R&B. Oh yeah, see Cody, I'm gonna have something out on that. The momentum is a big one, and I use Arval for that. Alex Schoenbeck, favorite sports team, mixed martial arts. I'm hardcore in that. My favorite fighter is Beneil Dariush. Sport, like organized sports team, probably hockey, and I have to be an Ottawa Senators fan because I was born in Ottawa, but they stink. Last I knew. Have you ever been in New York Stock Exchange? Yep. Yeah. I didn't do anything. I didn't ring any bell. So I just walked around a little bit, got a bit of a tour. They got prodded out. Would have been cool. I would love to ring the bell one day. I love to feed and cook for people. So I'm satisfying my passion. We're trading. What would you call your passion or dream job? None of your business. Oh, I'm not. I probably want to help people. I like problem solving, so it might be in neurology or medicine of some kind. If I wasn't doing that, and if I wasn't doing that, it's the combination. It has to be two things. I have to be able to solve problems that are complex, and I like to be able to give back. So, yeah, probably somewhere in medicine, right? Like I studied neuroscience and I don't even work in that space, and I have a formal education in neuroscience. So I would probably be doing something like that. Yeah, or maybe veterinary science because I like animals quite a bit. Ninja Great Band. Do you have kids, Zarek? Not yet. That's all I could say for now. Hopefully at some point in the near future. I have nephews and nieces though, and I love them. I love all my nephews and nieces. I have a lot of nephews and nieces. And I have siblings, but no kids yet. But I love kids and love to have kids one day. Ottawa's good young players. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. No, I haven't seen John Mayer play with Dead and Company. I mean, in videos, I've seen John Mayer play live. But no, not in Dead and Company. I know that he's doing that. I've seen a ton of stuff. I was blessed to see BB King before he passed, and I know John Mayer's played with him. Seen a lot of cool stuff, but I haven't seen him with Dead and Company. I do, but John Mayer stuff. If you guys like blues and you think of John Mayer, if you think of him as like, okay, so if you think of John Mayer as like this poppy kind of like, whatever they call the heartthrob sensation, that's just the nonsense. Look him up. Look up John Mayer Trio, and that's pure like blues and like rock. Or look up John Mayer, ZZ Top, and Slash, and you'll see how good of a guitarist he is. Like, he was just a kid. He jumps on stage with Slash and ZZ Top, and they're like, oh, this little, like, pop kid? Come on up, play the guitar. He starts shredding the guitar, and they start, like, bowing to him, So I think it's, like, Eric Clapton, ZZ Top, Slash, and, like, BB King of all said he's, like, the greatest guitarist of his generation. So I'm like, that's pretty good company. Sorry behind getting to... I 100% am watching UFC this Saturday if I get an opportunity. At least have it in the background if I'm working. Story behind getting into stocks. Kevin Royas, how did that start? I like solving problems, and I wanted something that I, would have an opportunity to make a good amount of money, and I saw opportunity there. I thought I could do really well in the space, and I knew I had the technical prowess to do. And I also like to sort of dictate my own ceiling, right? And that's one of the things where if you just wait on employers, they set your ceiling, whereas I want to set my own ceiling. If that means I fail, that's okay. But one of the things pivoting off of stock trading is that I can go just trade for myself, and if I'm good enough, I'll be successful, and I'll have opportunities. If not, then not. But if I suck, I want to know that I suck, and I'll take it. I'll take my losses. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that. Do you set your bids before the market opens? No, Mikhail, never. No, because I don't know what the price is going to be. Yeah, I could calculate it based on delta. I could never calculate it if I factor in IV. Joshua Zank, want to hear something cool? I used to. This is cool, just because I was good at math and because I followed MMA so closely. If you guys are into UFC, I'm actually on the UFC website in the vault when you go to watch old videos, because I used to be used to do photography in my part-time. I was just ambitious and I offered. I'm not a photographer. I borrowed a friend's digital camera. It was the size of a shoebox. I was persistent and wanted to be involved while I was studying. And I used to be a handicapper. I used to help. It used to be called, was it Bet Odessa? Like Joey Odessa? BetOdessa.com. Way back in the day, I used to help them handicap. I don't really bet on UFC fights anymore. Like I do with like one of my best buddies. We've been doing it since like 2000 or 1999. Well, we have like a little series we bet with each other. Or maybe like DraftKings like once a year, but we get into it. We make bets, and it'll be a series, and we agree on odds, and then like the winner owes the other person dinner. So And if you're asking my thoughts for this weekend, this is actually one of the ones where I have it as an even line. But again, I don't get to keep up as much as I want to. Thanks. Got on trading for the same thing. It's always been a question about setting my own ceiling in life. So the question of how and not dismissal. I can't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, guys. If I had to impart any kind of approach, is that, when you're working for someone else, 99.9% of the times they're going to set a ceiling on you. It's going to set a cap. And at a certain point, I don't know where you are in your careers with your different jobs. And this is not to say it's not fulfilling, but for me, a problem always was that eventually it becomes less about merit, more about politics. And there's some jobs that are different. If you're in sales, it's what you sell is what you get. But it becomes a lot more about politics. So someone puts a ceiling on you, and I'm more in the mindset of like, look, if I'm going to fail and be living in a cardboard box as a result of it, and if I suck, then that's it. That's why I'm so big about posting all my trade ideas, making sure I keep it up there. I don't delete anything. I never remove my live spaces. I always put everything up because I want to know if I'm horrible. I want to know the truth so that I can get better. I can't get better if I think I'm good and I suck. I can only get better if I know that I've made mistakes. And one of the things with working in a lot of jobs is it becomes politics and doesn't become on how good or not good you are. And so that crushes me, because then it's sort of like, well, how can I get promoted? How can I be the CEO? Oh, we can't tell you. You put in the time. What's the clear path? Give me a task. Well, and again, I'm saying this as someone who was a CEO, but I've worked in other companies. When I was at P&G, there's no clear path into the highest echelons of the company, Procter & Gamble. And I hate that. The moment that I don't have like a clear path, you could tell me to do anything. Tell me that you want me to do something that's an impossible task. At least I know, and I could fail or not. But if you just tell me it's like, well, we don't know. You've just set a limit on my life and on my aspirations, and I don't even know what to do to address it. So that's the perspective I have with going into careers. I need to know what the ceiling is, and I'll impose my ceiling on myself, win or lose, but I don't want someone else to impose it. Is there a fight that really piqued your interest in use? I liked karate and sort of boxing when I was a kid. And to Chad, my cousin did a lot of amateur boxing, and he was a really good kickboxer. So he trained me to box. And then I liked the idea of wrestling, and I learned about jiu-jitsu and fell in love with it when I learned about Hoist Gracie, just beating all these people up. And so I pivoted from one thing to another. Kevin Royas, it was like a transition. So I started when I was 18 or 19. Like I said, my commissions cost more than stock was worth, and it was worthless. And I started succeeding in my mid-20s, but it was an up and down sort of thing. And then I transitioned because my career's moved, so I had more capital to work with. And that's why I always tell people, like, I don't do the brag thing, because how would you know where I got my wealth from, right? If I were just to post things, because you could look it up. I was a tech CEO of an Inc. 50 company for over 6 years, right? Close to 7 years, 2-time Inc. 50 company. And I led them to become that. So, but yeah, I'd say by like my late 20s it was pretty consistent, but that took a few years. I also didn't have nearly the resources everybody here has. Like, I literally had to wait on the phone to place a call. You guys worry about not being able to stop out quickly enough. Try doing it over the phone. Like, you're literally like hearing price fall, and you're doing refreshments. Like, you don't get to see a live chart like this. You're literally just watching price go all over the place as you're refreshing. Oh my God. And you're calling in to speak to someone for quotes. This is a real thing. I could have to call, wait to speak to a representative, ask them what the price of something was. Like, okay, can you check the May 6th expiration puts 18 on ticker, and say the ticker out, and then they would like repeat it to you and say, that's LCID for May 6th, $18 puts, looking at a spot quote right now. Like, yes, correct, confirmed. Like, literally. And then you would say, I'd like to buy that. And you can't rush them. I know this because I worked in this space as well, and I would do this. You can't rush someone. They'd have to read your trade back to you and go, okay, so we are putting in a bid of 59 cents on the, Lucid LCID that is Larry, Charlie, like, they'd be phonetic. And you'd have to say yes. And if you just tried to rush and said, yeah, they'd say, is that a yes, sir? And you'd have to repeat. So it was crazy, but yeah, it took a little time. As things got easier and it was more agile, it was easier. And Anthony, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. Yeah. High position, all politics. Yeah. You get to a certain level, There's no way past that, particularly in large corporations. No. It's not merit-based and it's not objective. I'll put it that way. It's subjective, and that drives me crazy. Over this weekend, I would hold contracts if I was in a trade that where it hit my entry point. Yeah. Buying end of day, politics silly process kills the fun of my job, kills the fun of all jobs. Politics kills the fun of everything. End of day, just theta apply for Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, there's a theta from Friday to the Monday, but it's not applied on Saturday and Sunday, Zarek. It's applied from the transition from the Friday trading day to the Monday trading day. So I wouldn't think of it in terms of Saturday and Sunday, because then that implies that there is a theta applied on Saturday than on Sunday, and that's not the case. It's just a theta applied in the transition from Friday to Monday. Favorite book or movie? I don't know. I like to read textbooks. Need to learn how to. I have to be on. Speak honestly. I know, and it doesn't make me seem like the most fun person to be around. Yeah, I wouldn't know the favorite book. I like technical books or self-help books. Not sure. Favorite movie used to be Good Will Hunting. I really appreciated that, the direction of it. That was really, really good. I'm not sure what would be my favorite movie now. That was a good question. I haven't seen movies in a long time. But I do like watching the superhero stuff, so I'm way behind in that. I think the last one I saw was the End Game. So yeah, I'm a little bit behind on movies, but I think Good Will Hunting back in the day. For those who don't know or remember what Good Will Hunting is, it was a good movie. It was a good movie. I like the story as well. It's cool. Favorite book? Yeah, don't know, but I like to read different things, like not just stocks, like usually textbooks. So okay. All right, guys. So hopefully, that was a lot of fun. I appreciate all of you. Hopefully this was helpful and, in different ways. It's cool to get a bit of a different look. Today was different altogether. We even had some live scalping this morning and look at the markets here. One quick last look. Yeah, there's that breakdown, arcing day. If you're part of the insiders, you know what I mean by these arcing days. So this is hyper volatility, but the biggest, smoothest move was already captured. No FOMO into your weekend, guys. Think about everything that I said. Make an agreement with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Exposure. Go gradually. It's not a race. Don't spill the cup to get to the prize. Focus on doing the right things for yourselves. Avoid furus. Learn. Take your time. Progress. And just make sure you're taking care of yourself and getting better. That's all that matters. If you're getting better, you'll get to the goal. Don't stare at the goal, right? It doesn't help you get there. Taking steps helps you get there. So again, hopefully that was helpful. Thank you all. Have a really fantastic weekend. Hope you all get an opportunity to relax and review whenever it's convenient. All right, guys. Take care.